Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the Game Precast. My name is Frank. I'm joined by.
Mike, hello.
This will be the first episode. Um, we're just gonna go for it. I mean, it's gonna be rough, but we'll get through it. And why don't we
Yep.
start things off with what games you've been playing, Mike?
Oh, I've been playing Arcane's Prey this past week. Tried it when it came out in 2017, I believe. Yeah, 2017.
Yeah.
And I did not like it that much. I did and I didn't. I like the theme, I like the vibe, but I got to a point in the game where I needed to craft a bunch of stuff and I didn't pay attention to any of that throughout the entire game. I rushed through it and I quit. Replaying it on Xbox, it's a hell of a lot of fun. Um, the story's interesting, the gameplay is phenomenal, the art style and scenery is just blows me away. It's like, a space odyssey, but it's like 2001, but it's not. It's weird and I
Yeah.
love it. But
I mean,
that's
I
just
just want
me.
to
How
say
about
that
you?
it was probably my favorite game of 2017. Like favorite
It,
besides like the big like God of War, and the bigger games. Well, God of War was
I think God
2017,
of
right?
War was 2018.
Okay. Well, besides the bigger games, like the big marketed games, because Prey did not sell well at all. It was really
Yeah.
underrated, but it was a great game. I loved it. Um,
Dishonored 2 didn't sell well
yeah.
either, but it should have.
I mean, best thing you can compare it to probably would be Bioshock in space. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
it is.
Well, I actually thought it was more like System Shock if you ever played those
I
back
never
in the
played
day.
System Shock.
It reminded me of that, but definitely got BioShock vibes from it. But you could definitely tell there was influence from Dishonored in there,
Yeah.
and definitely
Yeah.
2001: A Space Odyssey. There's Stanley Kubrick written everywhere in
And
that
I mean,
game.
the best part about Prey is the fact that it's on Game Pass. I mean,
It
so you can.
is?
It is on Game Pass.
Huh? Yeah, no, I've been
So,
playing the disc, so I wouldn't know. But how about yourself this week? Anything interesting?
well, this weekend I did quite a few things. Halo 3 ODST,
Ooh,
which it
nice.
was my first time playing it. I've been playing through all the Halo games on the Master Chief Collection for PC, and I actually liked it. I liked it, probably my most favorite Halo game.
It's my
And
second favorite. Yeah.
I mean, it's because with all the other Halo games, I haven't felt attached to any of the characters. Like I haven't given a shit about any of them. Like, even in Reach, I know a lot of people like Reach. I just
That's
haven't.
my favorite.
I
Yeah.
because in Reach, I feel like I didn't even. I cared about the characters, but I feel like I cared about them more in ODST, and that's why I'm liking it. I don't know. It was a good game. I still gotta play Halo 4 and Halo 5, but we
I
got
don't
to.
know about that.
I know.
There's a significant drop in quality in not only
I've heard.
gameplay but storytelling. But no, the reason people don't really like 5 especially is because Buck from ODST is in that game, but they completely changed who his character is and he's
Uh,
written completely differently. So if you love ODST, you'll hate 5. I'll tell
okay.
you that right
Well,
now.
then I'm gonna hate 5, but yeah, I had a ton of fun with it. It was really good. I banged it out in one sitting, and I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
it
not
was short,
particularly long.
but I hated the parts when you're walking in like the city by yourself. That was probably the worst part of the game.
Mombasa streets.
Yeah.
See, when I was a kid, I hated it because it actually made me quit because I had no idea where to go. But growing up now, I love Mombasa streets, especially it got the Raindrop Prelude as a soundtrack. That's beautiful. ODST has some of the best soundtracks
Yeah, I just
of
felt
any
like
FPS.
the pacing for it, like you were just flowing through these missions so well, and then it's like, oh, walk across the entire map, and then it's like, all right, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I can understand from a gameplay perspective how that definitely upset the mood and just the kind of train of events going on. But at the same time, from a narrative perspective, it does make sense. You're trying to track down what happened to your squad,
But
and
the thing I don't
I
understand
personally liked it.
is about your character.
Yeah, the
Like,
rookie.
what happened to him? So they all dropped down at the same time, and he crashed. And he just fell asleep because I mean, there's like a 6 hour time gap in between.
Yeah, he was knocked out by the impact
Okay.
because
Yeah.
it was not a smooth launch or a
Yeah.
smooth landing rather. But
Um.
those ODSTs are badass, man.
Yeah. And then what else did I play? I played Hitman 2. I started that and
Ooh,
finished it. I mean, I only did like just killing them once. I didn't do all the different story options that I know you can do in that game because there's so much content in that game.
IO
But
Interactive's Hitman 2 or Hitman 2 Silent Assassin?
the newest one, the one that just came out
Okay,
recently. Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, I love that game. I pre-ordered the third one already.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
It's
excited for it. It's coming out in January, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
That new Hitman 2 is the best the series has ever been. It's brilliant in terms of the amount of ways you can assassinate someone, the level design. It's impeccable. It's the best they've ever done it. By far.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. I just played not the first Hitman, the 2016 Hitman. The first of the reboot. And that was fun. And then Hitman 2, I liked it a little bit more. And yeah, I mean, Hitman 3 looks good. So I can't wait for that.
I like the gameplay in Hitman 2 more, but there were some contracts in the 2016 one that I really loved, especially Showstopper in Paris. That's one of my favorite Hitman.
Well, I didn't do the DLC for the Hitman 2016. The Patient Zero one. I never, because I tried to play it and I was just having tech issues with it. So
yeah, that's one of the reasons I switched back to console. No more tech issues, at least to the extreme of on PC. But yeah, no, Patient Zero is actually really good. So if you can get it to run, I would encourage you to play it.
I mean, it runs. I just get a lag spike about every 2 seconds, and I think it's like an AMD issue. So assuming I'm able to get my 3080 sometime soon, I'll revisit it and go check out the DLC.
Here's hoping.
And then finally, I played Inside, which I don't know if you played that, but
yes, I did when it came
out.
I
started it maybe like a while ago. I played it, and I played like the first 30 minutes, and then I just dropped it and never touched it again. And then I finally went back to it because I was watching Alana Pierce's video the other night, and she had like her top 5 games of the generation, and Inside was on there. So I revisited it, and I mean, it was pretty good. I don't
know if I'd put it top 5 in the generation,
yeah, I mean,
but
I wouldn't either. But
better than Limbo, in my opinion.
I haven't played Limbo yet. That's on my to-do list, on the very long list of my backlog. But I enjoyed it. The ending was a little bit confusing, but after watching some YouTube, I figured out that they're like in a simulation or whatever. They're still in the factory getting tested on. Is that correct?
It depends on the ending you
get. I know you can do like the secret ending, unplug it, and then commit like suicide and just end the game or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty dark, but that's essentially what it is. But again, it's a brilliant game. I love it.
And yeah, that's it I played. I got a lot done this weekend, so.
Yeah, I think I'm going to actually be starting up tonight Sniper Ghost Warrior 3. Going to be replaying that.
That's another game on my list I haven't played yet. Oh, and actually, I started Call of Duty Black Ops. I got the first 2 missions done, first 3 missions. I just did the prison escape with Reznov.
Vorkuta, yeah. Is that your first time playing through Black Ops? Or?
No, third time. I played it once on the Wii, then I played it on 360, and now doing one final replay through right before Cold War.
I can't even name how many times that I've beaten that game. It was just an absolute classic from my childhood, and I've replayed it so many times. This year, though, I did replay it on Veteran, and that was a great challenge. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm playing it on Veteran right now. It's pretty difficult. Not as difficult as the Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare, or just COD 4. Because in COD 4, I felt like grenade spam was constant. I haven't had that much grenade spam. I'm only on like the second mission. I just beat that last night.
Yeah, because
when we get to the third and fourth, maybe grenades will get worse.
Black Ops is probably one of the hardest COD games I've played on Veteran. Definitely harder than MW2, which you'll come to find out. But the third mission, I believe, in the game, the Ascension mission, where you're stopping the Soviet missile launch, that's the first wall you're gonna hit. I'll tell you right now, because there's a hallway at the end of the mission where enemies constantly spawn, and they don't stop no matter how many you kill. You just gotta push through, and it is brutal because the checkpoint is pretty far back.
Yeah.
But you'll find out. You'll find out soon.
I believe you.
Black Ops 2 is a lot easier on Veteran, so if you ever move on to that, it won't give you nearly as much trouble.
Yeah. And then
Cold War will be easy on Veteran.
I think that's it for games that I've played recently. I mean, anything else, or ready to go into the next topic?
I mean, you can move on. Yeah, I've just been playing Prey in my spare time. Well, actually, hold on. That's a lie. Remnant from the Ashes.
Yes.
Been playing that co-op with my friends. It's Dark Souls with guns. It's made by Gunfire Games, the same people who made Darksiders 3. I did not like Darksiders 3 at all. In fact, I would wager that that's a bad game. But Remnant from the Ashes is definitely their saving grace as a studio. I absolutely adore this game. It's not nearly as anywhere hard as Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro. Nowhere near. But it's definitely still challenging and you can just play it relaxed and have fun with still having that challenge there. And it's the levels are procedurally generated, so there's a lot of replayability, and you don't get the same bosses every playthrough. The boss design could definitely work on being a bit more unique from boss to boss, but it's still a hell of a good time. And especially in co-op, the constant change of the environments and the bosses allow for multiple run throughs, and you can upgrade multiple gears, sets of gear, try out different builds with armor and weapons, and it's a lovely little game, and I would definitely recommend it if you like Souls likes.
Okay. Well, you know how I feel about the Souls games.
Yeah,
um,
I do.
I mean, Demon Souls is coming up, and that will be my game to rage on. So
And that will be my game to platinum first on PS5.
it's gonna be Spider-Man for me.
Miles Morales
Yep.
or the remaster?
Nope, not touching the remaster. Just Miles Morales.
Yeah, I feel you on
The
that.
game
With
is too new to need a remaster. There's no.
yeah, I'm not a fan of the new poster boy Peter Parker.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it, but
I like the old design a lot more, which I
see, I
think
didn't like
is
the old design at first. I thought because it felt weird because I was so used to the MCU versions, and that's how people felt when the Avengers game came, because the characters look nothing like their the MCU versions. So that's why people
yeah,
thought it was so
but
weird and complained. And then over time,
they
people got
shouldn't
used to
complain
them
about
because
that.
they look more like the comic versions, right? So that's
Well,
how I
it's
felt with
not.
Spider-Man, and I grown to like him, and now I like the old one more. Now the new one's here, and it looks more like Tom Holland, and it's like, oh, that looks weird. But once I start playing, I'll probably have no issue with it. I mean,
I don't know. I am always open to new interpretations of characters, especially when it comes to superheroes. Like we've had 3 Batmans this past decade.
yeah,
Like I'm fine with it. So I don't understand why people were mad when the characters in the games didn't look like the MCU counterparts, because it's not based in the MCU. It's a
yeah.
completely different universe, and people were really silly to jump on the bandwagon and
Well, let
hate
me
for
just
that.
say
There's
this. I
plenty of
mean,
good reasons to hate the Avengers game, but that's not one of them.
the reason Sony made this switch, I mean, it's obvious that he looks more like Tom Holland. I mean, they're gonna market this. They're not gonna market and be like, oh, this is Tom Holland, but obviously when they start rolling out commercials and stuff for either, they'll probably have DLC for Miles Morales too.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they're rolling out that expansion right around the time as Spider-Man 3 comes out,
Mm,
or
I don't
like the
know.
trailers start coming out for Spider-Man 3. They'll go off the hype of, or even if like I don't know when Spider-Man 3 is coming out, if it'll be time for the quote unquote Spider-Man 2 the game, and they'll try to market that around the same time as Spider-Man. Because I want to say Spider-Man PS4 came out right when there's a Spider-Man movie coming out.
It came out around Far From Home.
Yeah. So, I mean, Spider-Man's a huge asset. Those games are going to sell really good, regardless.
Especially since of how good they are, and that's completely due to Insomniac's input,
Yeah.
because they completely are responsible for making Spider-Man 2018 as good as it was. But I don't like because yeah, they are trying to make it look like Tom Holland, but to me that's Yuri Lowenthal's version of Spider-Man, because he brought his own flavor to the performance, and he made it work. And honestly, he's one of my favorite Spider-Men now.
Yeah.
I know it's only in the game, but he was
He
fantastic,
did a good
especially,
job.
and you beat it, right?
Yes.
So I can spoil. Um,
Let's not spoil for anyone
it's a
watching.
2-year-old game. It's a 2-year-old game.
All right. Well,
And
if
the
anyone
remaster's
watching
coming
hasn't
out.
played Spider-Man yet, and you're planning on playing the remaster or whatever, do about a minute skip so you don't get spoiled by Mike. All
Yeah,
right, you can go ahead.
that's fair. So when Aunt May croaks at the end of the game,
Yeah.
and Yuri Lowenthal's Spider-Man is right there alongside her, that performance is
It was
powerful.
crazy good.
And not only that, but fighting Doc Ock on top of the rooftop and leaving him behind, and him begging you to stay to help
good.
him. It was fantastic. And I just think that since his performance is not just adequate, it's beyond exceptional. Since Yuri Lowenthal did such a good job in those, high emotional moments, those intense scenes, I think that he deserves to have his own look. I don't think it should just be in copy and paste Tom Holland.
Yeah. Well, on the note of Tom Holland, let's move into our next topic, which is Tom Holland as Nathan Drake in the new Uncharted movie. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Nathan, I will say this to open, and it's pretty much my definitive feelings on the matter. Nathan Drake was designed after Nathan Fillion. It's written all over the internet. it's factual, it's set in stone. Nathan Drake was inspired by Nathan Fillion. There's a fan film on YouTube
I saw
of
it.
Nathan Fillion starring as Nathan Drake, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And he's, even though he's older, Nate's old in Uncharted 4. You can still make an Uncharted movie with Nathan Fillion, and he's shown that he's more than willing to do it by
Yeah.
being in that fan film. And I'm sorry, Tom Holland, you're a good actor, but you're not Nate Drake. I grew up with these games since I was a little kid. Drake's Fortune was my first.
Yeah.
I feel pretty disrespected as a fan that they're just throwing Tom Holland in as
Well,
Nathan Drake because they can.
I mean, if you look at Nathan Drake in Uncharted 3 during those flashbacks,
Yeah.
I mean, add a few years onto that Nathan Drake that you see in the flashbacks, Tom Holland doesn't look that far away from it. And Mark Wahlberg doesn't look that far away from Sully that you see in the flashbacks. So I definitely think that they can make it work, and I think the movie is going to sell decent. I don't know if it's going to sell great. I don't know if it's going to be the best video game movie. But, I mean, I'm going to watch it. I mean, I'm excited for it.
I mean,
think Nathan Fillion would be good. But yeah,
I'm gonna watch it, but not in theaters. I'm
I
definitely
agree.
gonna wait for it to come out on rental or
Yeah.
Blu-ray or whatever. But I don't think they have a proper appreciation for the source material, particularly Tom Holland in specific. And I say that because there was an interview where he said, "Yeah, I get people," and I'm paraphrasing here. He's like, "I get that, people don't see me as Nathan Drake, but this is a younger version of Drake, a side of him we've never seen, and I think there's a lot to do there." Which, that statement in itself greatly concerns me, because this is a side of Drake that we've seen. Like you said, there's flashbacks of him in Uncharted 3 as when he's a young kid, and
Yeah, but
even
we
in
just saw him
Uncharted
on the
4.
street, and
Well, hold on a second. In Uncharted 4, there's a solid 3 to 4
there
chapters where
is.
you play as young Nate with
Yeah.
Sam. We know that side of him, and the fact that Tom Holland doesn't even know that exists concerns me, because I don't think he's done enough research on the character.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But, and he just, to me, I look at him and I'm like, you're not Nathan Drake. And the reason Uncharted was even created was to have something like Indiana Jones in gaming. And
Yeah.
because we already have the Nate Drake in cinema, that's indie.
Yeah.
And now we're getting, and we already are getting Indiana Jones 5. That was
Yep.
supposed to be this year, but since of the pandemic, I believe it's being moved to next year. And I
Yeah.
just don't see why we need an Uncharted movie, let alone an Uncharted movie about a young Nathan Drake, especially when we have all the games and the most recently Uncharted 4, which was an absolute 10 out of 10 masterpiece. So,
Okay. Well, I agree on that note. Let's move into the Kojima. So Kojima
Hideo.
confirmed that they are going to be hiring for their next game. I think it was rumored that it's a horror game.
I hope so.
What's your thoughts?
Well, you know me, I'm a horror fanatic. I love it all. Games, movie, books, I'm
Yes.
obsessed. And we saw what Kojima was capable of with the horror genre with, PT. And PT was absolutely magnificent. I've never played a demo that was that scary, in my entire life up to PT.
I mean, people
and
consider it the best horror game, and it's not even a game. It's just a demo. It's a 15-minute demo.
People have the right to think that, though, because of how complex its mechanics are and the intricacies of it. If you've seen like the Out of Bounds videos where the ghost is watching
Follows
you
you.
and following you the whole time, that's insane. And the potential that was there was so real, with the unborn fetus in the sink, with Norman Reedus being revealed to be the main star at the end.
Yeah.
It was going to be something incredible, and Konami,
Had to ruin it.
in their infinite stupidity, ruined it. And the fact that we might be getting a second shot to see what Kojima's crazy, beautiful mind can come up with in the horror genre, I'm very thankful for that. And if that rumor is true, I wonder if there's any credence to the theory that Sony may be acquiring certain IPs from Konami.
You see, that's what I was thinking too. I mean, they could just have some sort of deal where they're doing Silent Hill. They could have acquired all their studios, or just licenses and stuff like that. Or this could just be an entirely different game, and they're just gonna make it be Silent Hill without actually calling it Silent Hill.
They could do that,
and they're gonna make it as close as possible with it still being legal, so they don't get sued.
it would sell like absolute hotcakes though if it
I
was
agree.
Silent Hill,
That
because there is still a large following to that series. I still have my copy of Silent Hill 2 for PS2.
I never
It's a
played the original Silent Hill games.
Well, the original's on PS1, so you probably don't want to do
No.
that. It's a tad dated, but 2 still holds up. Even with its polygon graphics, it's still an incredible piece of horror. And to maybe see that remade, because remakes are a thing now, that would be incredible. But when it comes to Kojima in specific, I would want to see either a new Silent Hill game or something entirely new. I wouldn't want him to do a remake because his mind is too great to be wasted on just rehashing something
Yeah, I agree.
or, or reimagining it.
I mean,
Because
even
you
Death
can't,
Stranding did at times. That game had horror elements to it. When you'd go
yeah, for sure.
like in that one like deserted city, I forget what the city's called, but because it's been a while. But when you go into that one
Something not
city,
city.
yeah, and you're recovering stuff, and like the storm comes, it's just they did a good job with that game, and that wasn't even a horror game.
Yeah, and the first time you run into Higgs when you're going to port, not city, and the I don't need the whale oil or whatever it is just
Yeah,
kind of comes out of everywhere, and you have to fight that big BT for the first time. That was crazy.
yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't like Death Stranding, but I am of the complete opposite. That game's again a
You
10
see, a
out of
lot of
10 for me.
people,
I
the
loved
people
it.
that didn't like Death Stranding, I feel like they didn't actually play the game. Like they just saw, oh,
Yeah,
it's walking, and I understand that because there was the first like 6 hours you're just walking, and there's nothing interesting happening in the story. So you're just delivering stuff, and it does become a little bit of a drag. But after those 6 hours, the game gets really good, and the people who played that saw that. Now, is it a flawed game? Yes, it's not a perfect game, but
there is no perfect game. Yeah, of
yeah, well,
course.
that's true.
But
But you can get close, and it wasn't close to being a perfect game, but it was still a good game, and I liked it.
I personally am of the mindset that video games are a form of art, and Death Stranding is a beautiful mosaic. It's definitely not for everyone, of course. Not everyone has the patience to play something like Death Stranding. But I even have to disagree with you on the first 6 hours part. There was never a time throughout my 50 plus hours in Death Stranding, honestly, my 60 plus hours in Death Stranding, where I ever got bored. I am
Yeah,
just absolutely in love with that game because you don't have to really think. You can just enjoy the beautiful scenery because Death Stranding does have the most beautiful open world I've ever played in. And just to trek through that is a treat on its own. And to
it's true.
have a compelling story, although convoluted and it does have some cringy writing at times, like Mario and Princess Beach. I remember
Yeah,
that one in specific. That was terrible. But I can't help but feel like that's due in fault to some translation errors. I can't prove that, but it's a possibility. Regardless, I am still deeply in love with that game. I definitely intend on replaying it one day in the future, and I do intend on platinuming it as well. So whatever comes next from Kojima, rather, I expect it to be on that level, if not greater. I know a lot of people hated it, but for someone who loves Death Stranding, I am fully ready to see what Kojima has next. And as a horror fanatic, he could truly do something spectacular. I mean, he just has such a unique mind, such a unique set of, I don't even know what you'd call it. It's just whenever he makes the game, it's like a perfect storm of absurdity and magnificence and beauty,
I mean, I
and
agree.
he always strikes a fine balance. He just always finds a balance and he makes it work. Yeah, some of it's a bit out there, but that's how you get the most creative stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my first Kojima game was Death Stranding. I haven't played any of the Metal Gear games yet.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I'm playing Metal Gear Solid
Wow.
5 eventually. It's a long game, and I know I don't have time for a long game right now because all the new releases are going to be coming. But it's on the
True.
list, and well, I did play the that was like that 2 hour game that came out before Metal Gear
Ground
Solid
Zero.
5. Yeah, Ground Zero. I played that, but I never played the full Metal Gear Solid 5. So,
No,
and I mean, it's on the list. I'm gonna play it eventually.
The Metal Gear games are the best stealth action games to ever be made. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is one of the best games ever made, period.
Yeah,
It's literally, that game is perfect. I will fight anyone who says that it isn't. It's there has never been a better third person stealth game made beside like outside of Snake Eater. I just don't think it exists. And Guns of the Patriots could have been a little bit better, but I still think 4 was a solid send off to Solid Snake, and 5, Phantom Pain, is an incredible game. And if Konami let Kojima finish it, it would have been even more incredible. But with what we got, gameplay wise, it's probably the best Metal Gear game, gameplay wise. Again, Snake Eater still trumps it in narrative, which is way more important. But if Snake Eater had Phantom Pain's gameplay, you would have the best stealth game ever made. That's how good Phantom Pain's gameplay is, because you can tackle objectives from any manner that you choose, any fashion that you want to orchestrate it in. You can infiltrate bases as loud as you want or as quiet as you want. You can go in with a helicopter and a minigun, light everyone up, jump in with a juggernaut suit, massacre the entire town, get your objective and go. Or you can sneak in, not touch a single hair on anyone's body, and no one will ever know you're there.
Yeah.
The versatility to attacking objectives is incredible, and I still have yet to play a stealth game, well, a military stealth game, that is on that level besides Phantom Pain.
Okay. Well, I will have to play it soon. I will get to it eventually. Maybe December. I mean, December kind of slows down a little bit. Besides Immortals Phoenix, or whatever they're calling it now. But
yeah, that Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, they had to change the name. So if you're ready, I think we can move into our next topic.
Yep, but when it comes to Phantom Pain, just make sure you have 100 hours to spare, because there's a lot to do.
I believe you. That's what I've heard. Alright, our next topic we're going to be moving into is Marvel's Avengers. They delayed their Hawkeye DLC and their next-gen versions. What are you thinking, Mike?
Tombstone, buddy. Where's the Tombstone at? Game's dead.
Their only chance was the next-gen version, right? Because, I mean, the server's already dying on PC and stuff. So their console launch for the next-gen version, so it's going to have to really boost it. Now that they delayed it, I mean, there's a chance that it probably would have also just gotten forgotten about if they tried to do this next-gen version right between Cyberpunk, Valhalla, all these other games. And delaying it could potentially help it if they can make it perfect and get rid of the issues that the base game had. And they come out with this next-gen version. And I think the Hawkeye DLC is still coming out this year. I think they said December is what it got delayed to. So, hopefully that's good.
When it comes to the next-gen version, I feel it's too little too late. You shouldn't be focusing on the re-release of your game. You should be focusing on the actual release that people pre-ordered and put money out for.
Yeah.
And to be frank, we're screwed over by putting faith in Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics, because the game's terrible. I'm sorry, it's just completely bland. The combat is uninspired as hell. The skill
I
trees
agree on that. I mean, when you're playing with the
upgraded.
Hulk, I want to be really demolishing people. And the fact that it's taking multiple hits to kill a little robot as the Hulk, I mean, come on.
And when you have such little health as the Hulk, it's absurd. You can die so easily. These are supposed to be Earth's mightiest heroes, but they die like every other game character.
And so many of the characters feel exactly the same.
They do.
And the fact that like their next heroes that they're adding, I think Warhammer, am I saying his name right?
War Machine.
War Machine. That's the fact that like he's one of the next ones they're adding. I mean, that's pretty close to Iron Man. Obviously, they're not exactly the same. They're different, but those are pretty close. I mean, Hawkeye, they're adding the female Hawkeye, his daughter.
Yeah, Kate Bishop and Clint
Kate Bishop,
Barton.
and then they're adding Clint. Both of them are going to play pretty fucking similar.
Yeah, and I imagine Spidey will play very similarly to Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's just they rushed it out, and I don't even know how that was possible, because they delayed it and delayed it and delayed it, and they were working on it forever. My personal theory is that they were making it a single-player game, and then they switched it to live service midway through development.
The game feels entirely different. Like, there's a point where, like, those first 2 hours, it feels like a single-player game. And that, I was loving it up, and then it just drops off, and it brings you into this, like, hub area, and it just feels entirely different. Then you're going to the portal to find your missions, and all the missions just feel uninspired after that point.
You still have to queue in a matchmaking session, even if you're playing by yourself. It's ridiculous. I stopped playing when I got to the anthill because I was just bored. I didn't want to give the game any more of my time. Like, the acting was pretty good. Troy Baker and Nolan North are always going to be spot on, and I really like Troy Baker's version of Bruce Banner. I thought he did an excellent job. And Nolan North, he's Nolan North. He's the best to ever do it. So, I mean, that's that. But you can't rely on actors giving good portrayals to iconic characters to save a game, because a game is way more than just dialogue and cutscenes. what is important to most people is gameplay. And Marvel's Avengers didn't bring anything compelling in that department. It was just button mashing over and over and over and over again. And I don't see how this game took over 5 years to make. I really
I
don't.
agree. I mean, I think it's because the problem is they focus on way too many characters. Like, if they're just focusing on one character and had a single player story, it'd probably be a pretty good game. But the fact that they're trying to focus on, 5, 6 different characters, it makes it a lot harder. And then that's why they all feel the same. And that's why the story doesn't feel as good, because you have to make it work for all 6 characters. So then dialogue and stuff feels weird, because the same conversation that you're having as Steve needs to work as when you're playing as Thor. So,
Yep.
And you said you didn't beat the story?
No, I didn't.
I mean,
met Hank, and
so you mind if I spoil anything?
No, I don't care.
Alright, so if you do care about spoilers, skip about 2 minutes ahead. So, probably the best mission in the game is you go and save Captain America.
Oh, wow, he's alive.
Yeah, I know, the biggest shock in the game. But that mission's actually pretty fun. It was probably the most enjoyable, because I felt like it didn't feel like the other missions. It felt more like the beginning of the game, where it was kind of like a single player, and it didn't feel like you're just going in this giant open world area. And
yeah, when you were escaping City as Kamala, it was great. But...
yeah. But I don't know. I mean, the last boss fight was okay.
Was it MODOK?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say the game has no chance at making a comeback, because, I mean, No Man's Sky made a comeback. Sea of Thieves made a comeback. Fallout 76 is starting to make its comeback.
I don't think Fallout 76 will ever get to where Bethesda wanted it to be in their heads.
Agree. I mean, it's not...
It had
Wastelanders was good. I enjoyed Wastelanders a lot. I don't know if you played it.
No.
I enjoyed Wastelanders a lot. A lot of people in the Fallout community enjoyed it a lot, because it did what... you want it from a Fallout game. It had NPCs, choice and consequence. Your decisions kind of mattered. It still is hard. Your choices mattered, but you'd be going into like a little subsection and you'd load in to make your choices matter, so you wouldn't see it on the entire world, because the world still needs to work for someone who didn't make the same choices as you. So it's only in instant areas, like inside locations, where you see your change. So I think this game would have worked a lot better as like just a co-op game, not doing the giant open world, but that's a conversation for another day. I'm not going to rant on Fallout 76 and all the issues it had. But, I mean, they have another DLC coming out in December, Steel Dawn. It's on the practice server, or the beta test server, whatever they call it. Steel? What's up?
Does that have to deal with the Brotherhood?
Yeah, it does. It's the first part of their Brotherhood storyline they're doing. And from what I've heard, it's decent. I mean, it's pretty much as good as Wastelanders. It's not... But if you didn't like Wastelanders, you're not going to like it, because it's more of the same. And...
I'll try it out.
Yeah, I mean,
I love the Brotherhood of Steel. I side with them in Fallout 4.
I sided with them in every game, too.
They're fantastic. They can be a bit overzealous at times, but,
yeah.
They have good spirits, I guess you could say. But when it comes to Avengers in specific, I can't help but draw parallels with Anthem. It's just too similar. It's too similar with the way that content starts getting delayed. They have a roadmap and they don't stick to it. And I personally believe that the delays aren't going to stop here. I think we'll get Kate Bishop this year. I don't think we're getting Clint Barton, though. I think that'll come next year, if they even...
Well, aren't they the same DLC? I think they're both in the same DLC.
They're separate.
They are.
They're separate.
I thought what was happening, and that was you're going to play as Kate, and you're going to go save Clint, because whatever he was doing, whether he got captured or whatever, and then at the end of the DLC, you're going to unlock Clint. That's what I was assuming.
From my understanding, from what I've read, it's that Kate Bishop was supposed to come out this month, and Hawkeye was supposed to come out next month. And now it's all being switched up, but yeah, they were supposed to launch separately. It's the same story, but like Kate's the first part and Clint's the second.
Yeah, and then it's like, what are they doing with the Spider-Man thing, too? Because they haven't even confirmed if that's even getting a story. When they announced it, they said it was an event. They never said that there was an actual story to it. So I personally feel like they might introduce it, and there might not even be a story to that. And that might be all we're getting for the year. I know they were teasing a Black Panther character, and then they stopped talking about it right when Chad died. So
yeah, I mean, they could bring villains in too to play as. I mean, the models for Taskmaster are already there. You
Well,
could
I
add
feel
him.
like you haven't played like past the first Taskmaster fight, but they reuse those two villains, Taskmaster and what's
Abomination.
yes, and there's like other like side missions at the end of the game, and they're reusing the fights and they're exactly the same.
Oh, that's
It's
disappointing.
the exact same fights, and you're just playing it as your group of characters. And it's so disappointing how they're using these characters. And
A-Day was fantastic. The
yeah,
opening,
it
I
was.
really loved A-Day, but just after that, it plummeted in quality, and you can really tell they did want to do this single player at first, but I can't help but feel like there's some publisher influence, and they were like, hey, you know, we want to make money. These
Yeah.
live services are popping off if you can get them to be a hit,
But
so
only if you can get it
do
to be a
that.
hit. I mean, if you can't get it to be a
Yeah,
hit, I mean, look at Fallen Order, for example. Fallen Order was a hit as a single player game, and it made them a lot of money.
yeah,
I mean, it
because
proved to EA that,
people
hey, we can
want it,
make money as single player games. Now, is EA going to stop doing multiplayer games? No, of course not. They want their
but they will
microtransactions.
incorporate more single player games into their lineup though
Yes.
because of it, like Fallen Order 2, which we
Yes.
know is happening.
And I'm hoping for a KOTOR remake or remaster or something.
I I love Knights of the Old Republic more than my own soul,
There was a
so
rumor about it, and
I know, and it was going to combine the first two games, incorporate some other elements, make it all canon, and I would be completely okay with
I mean,
that.
Jason Schreier was talking about it, and he was saying that, and this was a few months ago. I haven't heard anything on it since. I mean, this might have been May or April, but I mean, he was saying that it's still in development, but it's not made by EA. Because at the time, he said there's two games being worked on by EA, being Fallen Order 2, and then he said a smaller game, which turned out to be Squadrons. But he
Yeah,
said that as far as he knows, it's still being worked on by another company, and they outsourced it. Now I don't know who they outsourced it to, but just hear me out for
Obsidian.
hear me out. Yeah, to Microsoft and EA have been pretty close recently. So could you imagine Obsidian's working on it? I mean,
Yes, I could
because they
because they
do,
made KOTOR 2.
and I mean they do have a team working on something that hasn't been announced yet. It's probably going to be the Outer Worlds 2, but there is a chance maybe it
Or
is KOTOR because
look,
you can easily get confused between the Outer Worlds 2 and KOTOR because they're both space games. So, I mean, if they're early in development, oh, here's space assets, must be the Outer Worlds 2, but maybe it's not the Outer Worlds 2, and maybe they are working on a potential KOTOR remake or
I would
KOTOR 3.
be delighted. I wouldn't want KOTOR 3. I would want a reimagining, like the rumor said, of the first two games banded together into a modern RPG because a lot of people don't know the story of the first two KOTOR games, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
No,
I haven't played
Revan
them.
is just as compelling of a character as Anakin is, and I just want them to do him justice to bring him into the modern age. And especially since I might get chastised for this, but I like KOTOR 2 way more than the first one.
I think a lot of
And
people did.
but a lot of people also like the BioWare classic
Yeah,
compared to the sequel. But regardless, I like Sith Lords way more, and to see those same guys come back and just redo the whole thing, revitalize it, reimagine it, bridge the two games together, make it canon finally. It'd be the best thing to come out of Disney Star Wars besides the final season of Clone Wars.
yeah.
I would be delighted, and Obsidian are definitely the right people for the job for it. But it begs the question: if they're working on that, they're also squandering the opportunity for Fallout New Vegas 2 or Fallout New Vegas Remake. And they're also working on Avowed, and they also have Outer Worlds now, which, as you said, is a successful new IP because that
I
game
mean, they're
was very
still working on a
successful.
DLC for the Outer Worlds. They have one more left. I played the first DLC. It was pretty good. It was more the Outer Worlds, but that's a good thing in my opinion. The second DLC they're working on, I think that's a pretty small team, but that team could start working on the Outer Worlds too if they wanted to. They have a small team on Grounded. I mean, they're pretty stretched right now. I think In Exile could potentially do something with either the original Fallout games or
If they
Fallout
remake
New
Fallout 1
Vegas
or 2.
because Chris Fargo's over there, and there's a lot of the original Fallout guys over there, so I could see them working on something.
Do you think it'd be more likely to see a remake of the first Fallout or the second Fallout before we see a remake of New Vegas or a sequel to New Vegas?
I think it would make more sense to do New Vegas because how popular that game is. But from a perspective of me, I know there's a modding team working on the Fallout New Vegas and they're porting it into Fallout 4, and that mod is almost done. It's going to be released, I think, within a year.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they converted the entire game into Fallout 4, and it looks so good.
I imagine it would. And
Yeah.
a lot of people. Yeah, you're right. The first and second Fallout games don't have as much
Have you
recognition
seen
as
the
New
trailer
Vegas.
for it?
I haven't. I've seen the
All right.
trailer for Fallout Miami, but
All right,
not.
I'll link it to you, and then you can watch it after we're done recording.
I shall, because that
But
does sound very interesting, and I would love to play that. But yeah, you're right. New Vegas does have more name recognition than the first or second Fallout games, which is exactly why I think they deserve to be remade more than New Vegas does. At least at first, because that would introduce, new players, a new generation of players to those classics that are beloved by the people who played them because they are fantastic RPGs. Um, I don't say that they have to be remade in the isometric format. Make it a reimagining, like what RE2 and RE3 remake did for the original Resident Evil 2 and 3.
yeah,
Make it in the vein of Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4. Bring the story and the world from those games into this new first-person format, and I think it would sell like bananas, especially if you did some sort of combo package with both games remade on the same disc or something like that. I think that they could really pull something off with that, and now that they have Microsoft funding them, they can do whatever the hell they want.
a lot of money. That's an infinite amount of money right there.
It's a $1 trillion company.
Yep.
They can do whatever they want, and they could expand Obsidian if they want, but I feel like that would get rid of some of Obsidian's charm, so I wouldn't want them to do that.
I agree.
And I'm very interested in what they haven't avowed.
I mean, that was the problem with. I'll cut you off real quick. But that was the problem I felt like with Bethesda Game Studios is they've gotten too big, and I mean the team that worked on Fallout 76. I mean, a little bit did happen in Maryland with
yeah, that was Austin.
Todd Howard's team, but a lot of it was on Austin, and I mean, Todd Howard's not there in Austin, so that's not his management. I mean, so it's like, yeah, it's a Bethesda Game Studio game, but it isn't really Bethesda Game Studios. It's not the Bethesda Game Studio that worked on all the games that we loved.
It's only
Bethesda.
Bethesda
That team is in Maryland.
Yeah, it's like when Atari's trying to come out with their new console. I'm like, you're not Atari. Atari's been dead forever.
Yeah.
They're just using the name to sell the game. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't want Obsidian to become that because they have a way more stellar track record than Bethesda and Maryland does.
Yeah.
Regardless, I do think, and I don't want to sound callous because I imagine if you like survival games, it's a good game, but they should put Grounded on the back burner. Let's be real here.
It's legit. There's a 10-person team working on it, and from what I heard, I'm gonna check the Steam charts real quick on it, but it did good at launch. It's an early access. But these are the Steam charts. I mean, Steam charts isn't even included, so this is just people buying it on Steam, not even playing it on. What do you call it? So yeah, it had an all-time peak of 16,000 on Steam. Let me see how much they sold it for. I mean, currently right now there's like 1,000 people playing.
I think it's a $30 game. I could be wrong.
Yeah, $30. So, I mean, there's that many people alone who bought it when you could get it on Game Pass for even cheaper, and it's technically early access, and yeah, it's gone down in its player base on Steam. But I still think that they're going to support it just because of how small of a team is working on it. It's only like a 10-person team. So,
true.
I think they will finish it. I don't know if they're actually going to keep updating it, but I think they'll at least finish the main story.
He'll definitely do that, but when it comes to and I would want them to do that. When I say put it on the back burner, I mean once it is fully done, out of game preview, out of early access, whatever you play it on.
Yeah.
They should transition away from it because they're working on Avowed right now, which is going to be a massive RPG, and before the Bethesda acquisition was probably going to be a competitor to Elder Scrolls 6.
It was, yes.
And it's set in the Pillars of Eternity world, and I've played Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire, and the lore is awesome. I love that world. And to have a RPG like Oblivion, Morrowind, Skyrim in that universe is going to be great, and I want them to put a lot of effort onto that. But now that we have the New Vegas proposition, and now that we have the KOTOR theory, I don't want them to be stretched too far because all three of those concepts deserve so much individual attention. I wouldn't want them to rush through one just to get on to the next. So I don't know. I want them to do what they feel confident that they would be doing best, and right now that's probably Avowed, but I wouldn't be surprised if either a New Vegas remake or sequel or the next KOTOR is in development, or at least in the conceptual stages of development at the same time.
Yeah. All
but
right.
they're an incredible developer. I don't think they've really ever made a bad game. So whatever they decide to do, I have complete faith in them for.
Yeah. I mean, I've liked all their games that I've played. So, let's move on into Destruction All Stars being delayed. So, earlier today, it was announced that Destruction All Star is not going to be a launch title anymore, and they're going to be pushing it back, and it's going to launch in February on PlayStation Plus. All pre-orders will be refunded for it. They're trying to go $70 for it, which I definitely thought was too much. The game will be included on PlayStation Plus for 2 months. Now, I'm not sure if that means you can play it on PlayStation Plus for 2 months, then it's off, or if you can just redeem it for free for 2 months and you keep it for as long as you have PlayStation Plus, like it normally is.
Probably that.
But if it is that, then they just went and they changed their entire mindset on the game, going from being a $70 game to now, yeah, we're just gonna make it, PlayStation Plus for 2 months, but just giving it to free for a lot of people, because the majority, I think, maybe 30% of players, 40% of players use PlayStation Plus. So that's a lot of people getting the game for free. And then who knows how much they'll charge it after that. I can't imagine they'll try to get $70 for that after being on for 2 months. I'd imagine like $30 is probably a much fairer price.
I would say 40 to 50 because they're still going for an upmark with this next generation. But yeah, definitely lower than 70.
And there'll be a new trailer and more details coming out next week. Now, I thought this game, not worth $70. I wouldn't. $20 is the max that I would pay for this. I mean,
really?
Yeah. It was not up my alley when I saw it. I thought, like, this kind of game, I would check it out if it's on Game Pass, play it a few times, and then never touch it again. I think this game, like, would be perfect for PlayStation Now, and that's how they could make the service a lot better, is if they put their exclusives, like this game, onto PlayStation Now. I mean, I don't expect them to do what Game Pass is doing and be like, hey, we're going to put all of our games, including, like, Starfield, on Game Pass at launch. Like, no. I don't expect them to do that with PlayStation Now. I don't expect Demon Souls to be there on launch. But I think these smaller titles, like Destruction All Stars, Bugsnax, are games that should be launching on PlayStation Now to help us sell the service.
I agree. I will never touch Bugsnax, I'll tell you that right now. But no, Destruction All Stars, I was actually personally looking forward to because it looked to me like a mix between Rocket League, Carmageddon, and Grand Theft Auto. And it just looked like a bunch of fun. And personally, I always like having a multiplayer title for launch day for consoles so you can make new friends online during launch, just have something to play to test out your new console with. I
Yeah.
agree with you that it probably shouldn't have been $70, but personally, I pre-ordered it. I didn't have an issue paying that because it's a next-gen launch title. I I was aware that yeah, they're probably being a little bit overzealous charging 70 for it, but I truly didn't mind because it really seemed like something up my alley, and I'm pretty disappointed it got delayed. I mean, I'm gonna be real here. I'm gonna be all over Demon Souls now that Destruction All
Yeah, I
Stars is out
mean,
of the equation. And that was probably going to be the case regardless, but I did want to try it out day one, and I'm pretty disappointed I'm not going to be able to do that, but I'm sure they have good reasons for doing so. Like you said, it'll probably reach way more people on PS Plus.
yeah.
For me personally, quite selfishly, I'll add, I want to play it day one.
I mean,
So,
by doing this, it's going to come out in February, and I think when Fall Guys came out, that was like March or April maybe, or May. I don't really remember. But by
I don't
putting it on
remember.
PlayStation Plus, a ton of people are playing it. It was being streamed on Twitch, and it did really good. And that had a lot of extra sales to it by doing that.
No, for sure.
And I think for a game like this, it would have gotten lost if they released it launch week. And, how many different games, Valhalla, Cold War, Cyberpunk, Demon Souls, Spider-Man, Godfall, all these other games are coming out. That game was not going to stand a chance, in my opinion. I think it would get some sales for like younger children and stuff, but I don't know.
That's how I feel about Sackboy's Big Adventure too.
Yeah, that's
I don't feel like that's going to do that well compared to everything else.
yeah. I mean, it's impossible for it to do as well as something like Cold War.
Yeah, I think everything's kind of bending the knee to Cyberpunk a little bit, and
Yeah.
I think that's why they all wanted to come out before the 19th. Because if
See,
you
that's why I'm
notice,
still so mad
nothing
about
can happen
Cyberpunk
right
getting
now.
delayed to the fall. Because that game
Yeah,
coming out in April, like right as soon
would
as
have
we
been
entered
perfect.
quarantine, we had all
Would
this
have been
free
perfect.
time. That would have been the perfect time for that game because I wouldn't feel rushed. I mean, there's nothing else even coming out in April that I cared about personally. I mean, there's Final Fantasy, but
Final
besides,
Fantasy was super good. I still need to beat that.
I haven't even started it yet. I'm waiting for
Do it.
PS5 because I'm hoping 60 FPS, but we'll see.
There's no excuse that it shouldn't be.
I agree, but
The fact that Final Fantasy 16 is coming out so soon after the 7 remake as well is mind-boggling.
I mean, the rumors are saying 2021. Now, I don't believe that. I don't think
I
it's
don't
gonna...
believe that for a second.
Like, I don't believe it either with God of War. Like, they're saying, oh, God of War 2021. No way.
People are saying March 2021 for
I saw that.
Ragnarok.
That was fucking crazy. I'm sorry.
I know
Excuse
it
my
is.
language, but no, that's just not happening. It's
No,
very
it's
clear what they're doing with their launch titles, or not their launch titles, their post support in their launch window. We know Ratchet and Clank is a launch window game. That's going to be their first game coming out in 2021. Maybe it's January, February, March. It's in that region.
late
Then
January or
Horizon
February,
is
I
coming
guess.
probably sometime in the spring or the summer.
And that'll be on PS4 as well.
Yes. And then
which I
God
don't
of War,
understand why.
I think their target is fall, but I don't
Yes.
see it happening in the fall. I think it's going to get delayed. I
March
think that's
of
their initial
2022.
target. Final Fantasy is, I don't know what's going on with that game. I mean, there's a chance that maybe it will come out in 2021.
And there's also a chance it could come out in 2031. Be delayed 10 years.
That is
like
true.
15 was. Because this
But
is
I
very
think the more realistic option is God of War and Final Fantasy both in 2022. That's
I
my
don't
take.
see God of War coming out in 2021. When I saw the Ragnarok release date, and the fact that they already had a year surprised me. But the fact that that year was next, you surprised me even more. I'm like, how are you gonna go? Because when did God of War Ascension come out? Because that was the last one before 4, and 4
I'll
came out in
search it up.
2013. 4 came out in 2018. I believe Ascension came out in 2013. So that
God
would
of
be
War Ascension was March of 2013.
yes, I was right. So the 5 years, give or take. Actually, 5 years in about 1 month. That's how long it took to go from Ascension to 4. Now, granted, you need more time because you're completely reinventing the gameplay. You're completely reinventing the gods that Kratos will be fighting. The entire world that you're in is different. So it's going to take way more time to go from Ascension to 4 than 4 to Ragnarok. However, you still need quite a bit of time to make a next generation game. And I don't think 3 years is enough. I don't, especially if it's I'm sorry, get the fuck out of here. It's not coming out in March 2021. That's insane. That's insane. That would never happen, and if it did, it would be a complete rush job.
Yeah.
But fall 2021 is likely, but again, I agree with you. I think it should be 2022 to make sure it has the full 4 years of development. I think when you're because of how successful God of War 4 was, I don't want them to become overconfident and just say, "Hey, we can put the next one out and people will love it." No,
Yeah.
you still have to earn that. I think Cory Barlog knows it. I just don't know if Sony, the publisher, knows it, and that's where I become concerned. That's where I become concerned
Yeah.
because
Wow.
I have complete faith in him to make a game that is impeccable, on par at least with God of War 4, and I think his team at Sony Santa Monica is fully talented and capable to pull something like that off. They just need time.
And
I don't
one more
think-
thing coming out in 2021 from Sony, I forgot about Gran Turismo.
Oh wow,
That's
yeah.
another game, because a lot of people thought that'd be a launch title. It's often not a launch title, so that's coming sometime in 2021 as well. So they have a decent amount of games coming in 2021. I mean,
I will say though, as you know, a car enthusiast, Forza Motorsport is gonna wipe the floor.
yeah.
With Gran
I mean,
Turismo
Forza
7.
has been the superior racing game for a while.
Yeah, ever since the first Horizon, honestly, it's kind of just taken the charge, and
Horizon
love
has
Forza.
definitely been the better than Motorsport, but both Forza Motorsport and Horizon have been better, in my opinion.
Well,
than
they're
Gran
for
Turismo.
different audiences.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to like the motorsport, the simulation racing, Forza Motorsport 7 is way better than Gran Turismo 6. So I would imagine 8 is going to be better than 7.
Yeah.
But who knows? They could completely change everything and make it a phenomenal experience, and I'm sure it will be a phenomenal experience. I just don't see it competing with Forza. I'm pretty sure Microsoft has racing in the bag, because the only people that can compete is Nintendo with kart racing, but that's a completely different genre.
Yeah. Okay, well, if you are ready to move into Watch Dogs Legion, then...
I am.
Alright, so Watch Dogs Legion is coming out on the 29th, which is 3 days away from the time that we're recording this. If you're watching this on the first day this is out, maybe 2 days away, so we're getting there. It's really close. I mean, it looks good from what I've seen. I'm excited for it. I enjoyed Watch Dogs 1. I enjoyed Watch Dogs 2. Legion concerns me is the story. That's concerning because of how they're dealing with every person being recruitable. It makes dialogue weird, and I know Mike saw the one dialogue thing that was in ACG's video. If I remember, I'll put a link down with the timestamp. But the audio in some of the conversations, because it's AI doing the audio, it's not voice actors for a lot of these people, because that would just be way too many voice actors, and it sounds like a robot. I mean, it just doesn't sound good, and not every voice person in that game sounds like that. The AI is better in some spots, and I think they do use voice actors for some of the people, but I don't know what to say. I mean, didn't sound good, but I mean, hopefully they fix that, and I don't know.
Watch Dogs Legion is something I want to have faith in because I am one of the few people that really like the first one. I like the first one more than the second one. I thought the second one had better gameplay, but I just couldn't.
Yeah, I thought the story of Watch Dogs 1 was better too. I know a lot of people didn't like Watch Dogs 1 because of the performance and some issues they had there. I played it on PC after the launch of Watch Dogs 2, so I went into
I played
it
on
late.
360 day one and I still loved it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get involved with Marcus or really any of the main characters besides Wrench because they were all hipsters. And I'm sorry.
Well,
If
Wrench
you're a
will
hipster,
be in Watch Dogs Legion.
really? I'm
Yeah.
not surprised.
Same with the protagonist of Watch Dogs 1, Aiden.
If you're a hipster, I have nothing against you. I just wouldn't normally have a conversation with you. So I don't I don't want to play a game a whole like 20-hour game as a hipster surrounded by hipsters, and the dialogue because of that was very cringy.
Yeah.
And I just, again, the gameplay was fantastic. The open world of the Bay Area was very well designed. The driving saw a significant improvement from Watch Dogs 1. Again, gameplay wise, knocked everything about 1 out of the park. But I liked Aiden as a character more, and I liked the deep city crime mob angle the first one had going for a lot of it.
Yes.
And I just, the whole like big tech thing was interesting, but the main villain you only saw in 2 cutscenes, Frank. I remember that exactly. You only see him in 2 cutscenes. One where he's like introduced and sets up Marcus to take the rap for something, and another where he gets arrested. That's it.
It was
That's
very
not
much a
villain.
back character, unfortunately.
It just was
and that's
very
why Legion's concerning, because I don't think the story of Legion can be any better than Watch Dogs 2.
Yeah, and I completely played out Watch Dogs 2, including all the DLC. So I completely agree with you on that point. I don't see Legion having a good story. How can it? You know, I think the Aiden Pierce DLC will be adequate, but I don't think that the main story will be anything that you'll remember in T-minus a week after, you know, the game dropping. When you don't even have a main character, how are you going to have the player identify with anyone? Because you think that since you can play as anyone, the player is bound to identify with one of them. But if none of them are real, if none of them act like real people, if none of them are interesting, if you have to replay the same rescue mission to get new members to your crew over and over and over again, and I watched Young Ye's video. If you watch him, he said in 4 hours he did the same recruiting mission 3 times.
Yeah.
Which is completely unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. I don't understand how you're gonna ask people to pay $60 to $70 for this game and not even give them a good narrative to follow. I see the hacking. The hacking looks like the best it's ever been because it's more futuristic. There's a lot more things to do, and I imagine as a sandbox, Legion will succeed greatly.
Yeah,
but I don't see the narrative being good at all.
They're obviously trying to focus on the gameplay the most. I mean, and the gameplay looks good, and they felt confident with the gameplay. Obviously, by the fact that they've shown how many previews now. I think they've done 3 different preview events for YouTubers, and no, we were not invited to any of those, unfortunately.
No, we were not.
I mean, the gameplay has looked good in that. You can do anything you want, pretty much, and it's a sandbox game. I think it's really, really good, and it might be just as good as like a Hitman game is how it's sandbox. So you can just go, you know, if you want to go get into this building, we'll go knock out someone and take their outfit and go in as them, or recruit them to the cause if you can, and play as their character and walk in and actually be them and do their job, and then go delete the files or whatever you have to do. So I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to have flaws in the story, the characters, but I think the gameplay is going to put it at around maybe a 7 out of 10.
Do you think that this will be the final nail in the coffin for the series if it doesn't do well?
If it doesn't sell well, then I think it gets put on hold. I don't think it's done, but it's on hold for a little bit.
I think because what I always said to all of my friends who play the games with me, because the multiplayer was pretty fun in those games as well. If they were to combine the story of 1 with the gameplay of 2, they would have an absolute winner on their hands.
I agree.
And I thought that's what Legion was going to be, but the story's non-existent. I don't care. I already saw the preview of like, oh, you're taking down these corrupt British politicians who, sold out to Bloom and CTOS or whatever the plot is. I don't even really care. Like, oh, I saw another generic villain. I don't even care to know their name. I don't care to know their motives. It's just so bland and uninteresting to me. And the fact that you're not even going to have a main character to sit through all of this with, it's just going to be so unmotivating. I don't know. I personally think the game is going to suffer greatly because of it, and I do think it's going to sell less than 2.
And I know Watch Dogs 2 didn't sell that great either.
Yeah.
It still did decent. I mean, and I think it still sold like 10 million. So, I mean, it wasn't bad by all means, but it did less than what they were expecting it to sell.
I expect Legion to be around 6 to 7 million at most. I could be completely wrong, and if I am, I'll eat my words. But when you don't have a solid narrative, you're going to alienate a lot of your player base, because I care about that the most, and I know I'm not the only one.
You see, I think it is going to sell decent. I mean, they've been advertising it quite a bit, and I think it could be similar to an Avenger situation where it's not the best game, but people still buy it because the gameplay's fun. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it will sell terrible, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
And that would work for Legion because it's a single-player game first and foremost, so you would still be able to play it, and if there were matchmaking issues, you would have no problem, unlike Avengers. But I don't think that should be a developer's goal, is to just get them to buy it, and it doesn't matter what they do with the product afterwards, as long as we have the sale. That's what matters. You should want your player to stick around and play the game you made. And I don't know if recruiting missions are as repetitive as certain content creators out there have said. I don't see myself sticking with it if I have to replay the same recruiting mission 3 times within 4 hours. That's a bit absurd, and I don't see how that would be a good use of my time, especially when there's so many other games coming out very, very soon.
Yeah, I agree.
I think, like I said, the gameplay is going to be pretty fun, especially if you saw the Hitman clip of the John Wick type character. That looked very fun. But
and the fact that you could just run around as a grandma, knock someone out with the purse. I mean,
and that's gonna be fun. But that's like Grand Theft Auto type fun, where you can just mess around and do whatever you want. But the thing about GTA is that you have a great story to go along with that, to guide you through the open world, and that's a crucial component. If Legion doesn't have that, like I said, you're going to alienate a lot of people. Not everyone, but a lot.
Okay. So next we're going to be moving into some news about Sony. Recently they just announced that Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War will be having another exclusive mode for them. It'll be Zombies Onslaught, which is just pretty much zombies, and it's going to be on the multiplayer maps. So instead of it being on the exclusive maps for zombies, it's going to be multiplayer, and maps like Miami and other maps that you saw in the beta will be on that. Similar to what they did back with Modern Warfare. It was controversial, and I don't think anyone on PlayStation even played the exclusive mode. It was not a good mode. I think we're seeing a pretty similar thing.
And other platforms just got it yesterday, actually.
Yeah, and no one played it on Xbox because it wasn't good. And I think it's going to be a very similar situation here with the new mode. I mean, I don't think anyone's really going to want to play this over the maps that were built for it. I mean, they're just porting it in to multiplayer maps, and I don't think they're changing anything with the map at all. Like, they might just be adding a few weapon things on the walls, and that's probably it, and perks. And
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, it might work. People might play it, but I feel like whatever Sony paid for this mode was too much.
Yeah, maybe. It's just what bugs me about it is the principle. I just you're taking a mode that's already made and you're giving it to another platform not just for a month but for a whole year.
Yeah.
The mode might not be fun. You might be right, but on the other hand, it could be a boatload of fun because it's zombies, and
Yeah.
zombie purists want to play zombies on every map that's available, so they can then decide for themselves what they like and what they don't like. And to deprive people of that ability just because they want to play on a platform with better performance, because objectively the Series X performs better than the PS5 and PC is the trump card that beats all of it. So people want to play a lot of the time on the system that's going to have the game perform the best. And now you're going to have the people that made that logical choice, deprived of a mode that should be a part of the game. And I saw this again last year, like you said, with survival and modern warfare. And it's just unnecessary, and it just feels like such a jab to the player. I don't see how this is supposed to benefit the consumer at all. It's not. You're just depriving people of a mode in a game that they paid $60 to $70 for, that they should have access to. Just because they don't play on the platform that you partnered with, you're gonna not let them have access to that mode for a year, and by that year, the time that exclusivity window is over, the next Call of Duty is already gonna be out, which is like
Yeah.
we're seeing right now. Literally just yesterday, as of this recording, Survival got added to Modern Warfare on PC and Xbox. No one cares because the new Call of Duty is just over 2 weeks away.
Yeah. And
Like,
I mean, this is nothing new for Sony. I mean, they've been doing this now. They did it with Avengers, with Spider-Man. It just came out. Well, they did Deathloop. They made that exclusive. I think it was 6 months or maybe a full year as well. For Deathloop, Ghost of... What's the game called that's working on?
mhm.
Tango?
Oh,
The other Bethesda game.
Ghostwire Tokyo.
Ghostwire Tokyo.
Ghostwire
Thank you.
Tokyo.
That game is going to be a year or 6 months or whatever they're doing. I mean, this is nothing new for them, and reports just came out recently that they were also trying to get Starfield to be a year exclusive as well. And then
This is gonna backfire on them
Microsoft
spectacularly.
came in and just had that deal and bought the whole thing.
I'll tell you
Um,
this right now. Microsoft could have made Minecraft exclusive when they bought Mojang, and they
yeah.
didn't. Now Microsoft owns Bethesda, and they're still honoring the timed exclusive agreements. They don't have to, but they're still going to honor the timed exclusive
Well,
agreements with
legally they
Deathloop.
have to, but they
They
could.
could have found a way
Yeah,
out
they
of
could
it.
have fought it and found a way. Absolutely.
They had the money to. They absolutely could have gotten
Yes.
out of it if they want to. But Phil Spencer's a nice guy. So Phil wants to, honor the agreements. And then Sony keeps pulling this anti-consumer nonsense. And you want to know what's going to result in, Frank? Elder Scrolls 6 being an Xbox and PC exclusive and never coming to PlayStation.
I agree. I mean, I think that's already started with the notion that Xbox has no games. They want to fix that, and they're going to make their games exclusive. I mean,
And if you're poking a bear, Sony, a
the
sleeping dragon.
exclusive war already started. I mean, prior to Sony doing stuff like this, I mean, Final Fantasy happened, then got obviously the Bethesda games. They were making timed exclusives. They've been doing this now for a while, so it was only a matter of time before Xbox started doing timed exclusives again. Because Xbox did do timed exclusives with, I want to say it was Titanfall, and
Yes. Well, no,
Tomb.
Titanfall never came to any other platforms besides PC.
And then Tomb Raider, one of them was a timed exclusive as well.
Sh-
And they
Rise
got a
of the
lot of
Tomb-
backlash for it, and then they stopped doing it. And now Sony comes in, they start doing it, and they've gotten backlash, and it doesn't look like they're stopping. They don't care. So now Xbox is going to say, all right, well, we're going to start doing it again too. And that's the reality we have.
Yeah, I guarantee you Microsoft will be way friendlier with Nintendo. I guarantee you there will be more partnerships on Switch in the future. In fact, I wager that xCloud will come to Switch by end of next year.
I absolutely agree.
I think that's definitely going to happen.
I mean, now we're in an acquisition war, and we know Microsoft just bought Bethesda. Facebook's getting into gaming with their cloud services. Amazon is getting into cloud. Google's getting into the cloud. I mean, I hate to be the person who says it, but I think some of these companies are going to start buying actual studios, and they're going to have exclusives, Stadia exclusive, and who knows? I mean, these companies have unlimited money, and they know the only way to get people to their platform is to buy exclusives.
Yep.
And I mean,
Especially with
I would
something
rather
like Stadia
Microsoft
that
or
failed.
Sony buy these platforms than Facebook. Yeah, I mean, Facebook's
No,
already started with exclusives. They've done it with VR. They have exclusives for VR now.
more anyone besides Facebook. Literally any company besides
I mean,
Facebook. I'd
VR
rather
is such a
buy
shit market now
companies.
because there's so
It
many
is.
different VR headsets, and they're starting to get exclusives. I mean, they have the Star Wars exclusive game. They've had a Medal of Honor game that's coming out. It's going to be exclusive to Oculus, I think. Or maybe not. Maybe they
Yeah.
changed it. I think it might actually only be like timed and then coming to other
But yeah,
PC.
Vader Immortal
Vader
was
Immortal was another one that was exclusive.
and that
Um,
was really good actually.
and I think Xbox predicts this, and they know that they've said their competition is the other cloud services. They don't see Sony as big as a competition as these cloud services. And I think Xbox knows that they're going to start acquiring stuff. So that's why Xbox is getting ahead of the curve, and they just bought Bethesda. And if you want to transition to our next topic, I think we should talk about some other studios that I think Xbox might acquire.
Yeah, because we can honestly go back and forth between the two topics. I mean, Xbox, it's just they are playing the long game. Let's make no mistake, they are
Yeah.
playing for keeps here, and they know that the returns might not be immediate. You know, a $7.5 billion acquisition is not going to make itself up overnight. But they know in the long term that with subscriptions, with downloads, and people are still going to buy the games physically and digitally outright because they're massive titles. People love Bethesda games. Um, they're going to make some serious bank here, and they're going to establish a serious foothold in the exclusive market. As soon as that announcement was made that they acquired Bethesda, the statement Xbox has no games was no longer applicable at all. You could say that maybe for their launch window it is a bit lacking, and I would agree with you. But in the long term, they are set now. And let's make no mistake, they are not done buying studios. It was heavily rumored earlier this year. You wrote an article on it that they were going to buy WB Games. That could still happen. I don't think it's going to happen this year. Hell, I don't even think it's going to happen next year because they did deem it too valuable. But over time, WB is going to lose interest, and then they're going to want someone to take the reins. Who's going to have the capital ready to make a buy like that? It's going to be Microsoft,
And I mean,
not
let me just
Sony.
say this: AT&T is not in a good position. They have a lot of debt. I think they saw how valuable gaming is and how much money gaming can actually make, and that's the only reason they're still holding on to them. And I do think there is a good chance that they still sell them if they get the right offer.
I think that Microsoft would be the type of people to make that right offer because I I wouldn't want Google to buy anything because I will never get Stadia in my life. I have no interest in it, and I don't like Google as a company, to be quite honest. So I wouldn't want them nor Amazon with their Luna project now to
As
buy
we're
any
uploading
studio.
this on a on a Google platform, YouTube.
They can censor us all they want. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna speak the truth. Google does not make games. All right, they
Yeah, I
they don't
mean,
have any passion behind it.
I
They
use
just
Stadia.
want money.
I don't know if you know about AC Odyssey. They had when Stadia launched, you can like try it out on the Odyssey, and for people who tried it out, got a free copy of Odyssey. So I ended up doing that, and I played an hour of it because that's all that was required to get the copy. And the hour I played, I mean, it just wasn't a good experience. I mean, you can say my internet's slow, but my internet's not that slow. I have decent internet. I mean, and it just wasn't good. I mean, the resolution was pretty low. I think it was at either 720p or something like that, or 900p.
Something around there.
And I mean, I wasn't getting 60 FPS. I was playing at 30. So if you're someone who doesn't have like a computer or a console, then sure, Stadia might be good for you, and all the other streaming platforms might be good for you. But if you don't have amazing internet, then no. I mean, you're better off just playing on your PC or your console.
And they're just heavily anti-consumer too. Did you see what I believe it was the project lead for Stadia came out and said
Yeah,
earlier this week or last week how
yeah.
Twitch streamers and YouTubers have to pay or should pay for recording
I was thinking
their
about making
games.
that a topic today and just going off on that for 20 minutes, but I feel like enough people
We
have
can
destroyed that
now.
man. It's a
I mean, he
terrible.
deserves to be destroid. That is one of the worst hot
If you
takes you
paid
could
money for
ever
the
have.
game and you
It's
are
yours to do with whatever you want.
yeah, and games like Among Us, Phasmophobia, Fall Guys would not have been popular if it wasn't for streaming.
Fortnite, biggest one.
Exactly.
Wouldn't
Yeah, Fortnite. I mean,
you need exposure from the community to grow your games, and to imply that someone needs to pay you for that privilege more than the $60 they already forked up for the game is ridiculous, and it's greedy and it's absurd, and it reveals his character immediately, and that's just another stain on Stadia's long decrepit history. I don't see how they could ever recover from this path that they followed now. They're too far deep into it, and they have too much of a bad reputation, not just Google as a company, but now the Stadia name itself. People
Yeah.
have not had good performance like you had yourself personally. People do not like the people in charge. They're very anti-consumer. I mean, they were anti-consumer when they announced the dang thing because they already announced exclusives like Baldur's Gate 3, which you're going to deprive people of that if they don't get it on Stadia. They've since switched
Oh,
that.
I was gonna say I
But
didn't hear about that. What?
no, when they announced it, Baldur's Gate 3 was announced at that event, and now it's coming to PC, of
Ah, I didn't
course,
know
but
that. That's crazy.
I was very disappointed when I heard that because I was like, really, you're gonna deprive people of Baldur's Gate 3 for your crappy platform? And I'm sorry, it is a crappy platform. If you want people to put money into these things, you have to put money into these things. You have to
Yeah.
make it worth the purchase, and it's just not. When Xbox and Sony and Nintendo are all, and hell, Valve are all collectively killing it and have been for like the past 2 years now. Honestly, ever since 2017, everyone has been killing it. And you try to get in now
Yeah.
with bullshit, to be quite frank. No, it's not going to happen.
I agree.
It's not going to happen. And you have companies like Microsoft actively pushing pro consumer rhetoric, and not just in their rhetoric, but also in their actions. Game Pass is an incredible deal, especially Game Pass Ultimate. $15 a month, you get online play, access to over 100 different games that you don't have to stream. You can install right to your hard drive, so there's no lag. And you get xCloud, so if you are out and about, you can stream those games wherever the hell you want it to be. It's an incredible deal, and when you have something like that, why the heck would you ever want Stadia?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to me.
I agree. So you want to
But
move into studios that Xbox might be acquiring? For
absolutely.
So I'll start putting out some names, and so Bloober Team. They worked on the
Blueberry, you
Medium.
said?
Bloober Team.
Yeah.
So they're working on the Medium right now, which is coming out in December as a Game Pass game, Xbox and PC exclusive. Uh, Previously they worked on Observer System Redux is the coming out on the 10th, I think, of November, and that
I've
had the
heard
original
Observer's
game,
good.
I think in 2008 or something like that, the older game, and they made a remake for it as well. Um, what other games have Bloober worked on?
They made something else that I played
Blair
very
Witch.
recently. Yes, that's what it
And
was.
they also worked on the Layers of Fear games. So they've been in horror.
Did they work on Layers of Fear?
Yeah, they did
The
Layers
first
of
one
Fear
was
and
good.
Layers of Fear 2.
The first one was all right. Second one had a little bit to be desired.
Yeah.
But no, Blair Witch, and again, Blair Witch I wanted more from it. I'm not
I didn't
saying
play
it's
Blair Witch
bad.
yet. It's on my list of things I gotta play.
I never
But
finished it. I never finished it, so I can't judge it too harshly. I just wanted more from it than what I played. It kind of just felt like an extension on Slender, the 8 pages. Again,
yeah,
I could
I
be
can see
wrong,
that.
but from what I played, it just borrowed a little bit too heavily from that. And I don't know. The medium looks super interesting to me. I'm
I agree.
definitely gonna play that as soon as it comes
Same.
out. Um, and it definitely would not be the most expensive acquisition for Microsoft, so it's
Yeah.
definitely within the realm of possibility just to add
I
another.
absolutely think they're acquiring. This is one that I'm almost certain on. Like,
It would
they've had
make
a
a lot of
very
sense.
close relationship with them. Um, I mean, it's essentially just as close as how Xbox was with the team behind Ori. I can't think of their name right now, but I know
Yeah,
that.
and Playground Games,
Yeah.
who made
Uh,
Forza Horizon, and Undead Labs, who made State of Decay. When they
yeah.
partner with,
Moon Studios
like,
from Ori. I mean, they're really
yeah.
close with Moon. Now, Moon said they don't want to be acquired and they want to stay independent. But I know Bloober Team hasn't said anything, and I think they do want to be acquired. So I think Microsoft is going to come get Bloober. I think that will be announced by. I mean, whatever this next event is. There's been rumors about maybe something on the 9th, right before launch. But I expect this to get announced pretty soon. Um,
Yeah, Bluebird's definitely a possibility. How do you feel about Bungie? Do you think this within the realm of
um,
happening?
I mean, I think it'd be good for Xbox. Destiny has been very good. I don't know if they would go back and work on Halo just because of how good Destiny has been.
I thought you were gonna say how good 343 has been.
No, I was not about to say that. Um, I think maybe they split up their team or something, but I don't know if Bungie wants to come back because they've worked so hard to break away and be their own entity, and now they've done that and they're being successful with how
True,
Destiny has been.
but their best work was under the Microsoft
That is
umbrella.
true.
If we're gonna be real here,
And things
you
have
know,
changed at Xbox since they left, so there is always a chance. It would
new
be
boss.
expensive. It would be.
Yeah, it would be, but it would be worth it to.
I agree.
You know how many people would come back to Xbox when they hear that Bungie's back too? Because that's how Xbox started, was
Yeah.
with Halo. Combat Evolved 2, 3, that trilogy was one of the biggest events in gaming as a whole, especially when Halo 3 dropped in '07. People lost their minds. And you just played ODST, you love it, you
Yeah.
see how good of a game that was, and that was just a standalone expansion. And Reach, my personal favorite FPS of all time, tied with COD 4, is just beyond exceptional in my own opinion. So to have them come back and to work on the franchise that started it all would be incredible, and I would love to see that happen. Is it likely in my opinion? I don't know, because like you said, they do love their independence now. But I think even just, it doesn't even have to be an acquisition. Maybe just like, giving them some assets, some liquids, some cash, like they are
Yeah.
doing with GameStop to prop them up.
Yeah.
Have them do that with Halo. Give them the resources and they'll do it. That's how I see it.
What do you think about Asobo Studio? They
What
worked
have they?
on Flight Simulator.
Oh,
They did Plague Tale: Innocent, which was a really good game.
oh, I love Plague Tale. I am
They
super excited for the
also
sequel.
worked on the Zoo Tycoon reboot,
I
Disneyland
remember that.
Adventures, which are both Microsoft titles, but they weren't good Microsoft titles.
Yeah.
And then they helped out on Recore.
Recore, I heard, kind of flopped a little
Yeah, it did
bit.
flop. But Plague Tale was a great game, and Microsoft
I
Flight Simulator was a great game.
Plague Tale is one of the most underrated games I've ever played. I
I
actually
agree.
shelled out money for a physical copy for it because I loved it so much. I thought the dynamics between Amicia and Hugo, the brother and sister, was fantastic. I loved the backdrop of the Spanish Inquisition, and I like how the plague wasn't just a bubonic plague. There were supernatural elements to it. There are definitely issues with gameplay and combat and some boss
Yeah.
fights, but that was their first attempt at anything like that, and I
Yeah.
would love to see a sequel, and a
Same.
Microsoft backed sequel would be incredible. And just playing that game, I see the talent that studio has, so yeah, I would love to see Microsoft acquire them and give them a big budget.
What about a Techland acquisition? Now, Techland, I love Dying Light. I thought the
I
DLC
do
was
too.
also great. In
I
the
thought it was
time
the
that
best
Dead
first
Island
person
has been
zombie
in,
game ever
quote
made.
unquote development, Dying Light has made a full game, a DLC, and their second game should be done. It's been kind of MIA recently, and no one really knows what happened to it. It got delayed. They said it was
Indefinitely.
very close to being done, and then it went silent. I think they got acquired by Microsoft, and that's why they've been silent. I don't see any other reason why they wouldn't talk about their game whatsoever. Because this game was supposedly, I mean, it was almost ready to release back in Q1 of 2020, and then it got delayed due to COVID. Or maybe it
Broke
wasn't
my
COVID.
heart.
Maybe it was because Microsoft acquired them. I don't know.
Yeah, and they said indefinitely, which is
Yeah, it
strange.
was weird
Because
because the
if it is
game, they
almost
showed off
done,
so much gameplay for it, and it looked good in the gameplay. Like
it ran really smooth
it
as
ran
well.
really smooth, and they had a choice and consequence showing with like how the village, the water floods away and stuff. That
And if you
game was
trusted
in
that
its
guy
final
or not.
steps.
Yeah. I really was impressed by what they showed with Dying Light 2. It was such an evolution from the first game, and I am of the mindset that Dying Light is the best first person zombie game ever
Same.
made. Um I found the gameplay to be extremely fluid with the free running and the parkour and just the transitions you can make from running to slicing off a zombie's head. It was just too smooth to not be appreciated, and the story of Dying Light definitely left a lot to be desired. But
Yeah.
let's be honest, you played that game for the gameplay.
Yes.
And then when the following came out, that story was actually really good. It was
Yeah.
way better than the main game, and they added a lot. They added driving and vehicles and a
And a
whole new
huge new
map,
map too. I mean, that was a pretty big expansion for a
and it was
DLC map.
completely different from the regular base map too, because the base
Yeah.
map was like
The
slums and
city.
the city, and this was all rural farmland and pastures, and it was fantastic, and they added new enemies. There was again a choice at the end of that story as well, and they just showed that they are way more capable when they're, out from the thumb of Deep Silver. So when they aren't relegated to making Dead Island and they have that freedom to do what they want to do, we get something like Dying Light, which is the only reason why I am a bit hesitant to say that Microsoft has already acquired them, but it would make sense because they would, in exchange for that freedom, you get a pro consumer boss, which also, and Microsoft treats their development studios very well. Additionally, you're going to get a new boss with a lot more funding to do whatever you want. So maybe they delayed Dying Light 2 to expand the scope of the game because they had an added budget. Who knows? I also have a darker theory that it could end up getting canceled because when you delay a game indefinitely and you don't say anything about it for a very long time and it's been complete radio silence, as you said,
Yeah.
that is cause for concern.
But they have still been supporting the first Dying Light, which is the
Yes.
weird thing. Like, they had, it's been out for 5 years now, and they had, like, a big DLC thing over the summer for it. Like, this big online medieval event or something like that. So they're still supporting that game, and I think if Dying Light 2 is really in trouble, they wouldn't be supporting that original Dying Light, and they would have all hands on deck for this project to try and fix Dying Light 2.
True. That's a very good point, which begs the question, why have they been so quiet? Because they have been updating Dying Light 2. They do have the Bad Blood Battle Royale as well in the first Dying Light, and they've been supporting that. They continue with the content updates for that game, so what's the deal with the sequel? I mean, we haven't seen gameplay for the sequel since, what, E3 2018? I want to say.
Yeah.
It's been a
Or maybe
long
20. No, I think
time.
we saw some in 2019.
Did we? I'm trying to remember
we saw some in 2019. Because they showed gameplay in 2018 and they showed gameplay in 2019 as well.
The last thing I saw was of that water treatment plant, like you were saying, and you getting betrayed by that one guy. And yeah, I'm concerned, and I'm concerned because I want to play the game so damn much.
Same. I mean, it was in my top 5 for 2020. Like, going into 2020, like, there was Cyberpunk, and then I think Dying Light 2 was my second game.
I love the first Dying Light. I have over 100 hours in that game as well. I'm nervous. I'm very nervous. But if Microsoft were to acquire them, all my worries would just dissipate immediately, because I know they would have that financial backing.
So what do you think about Don't Nod Entertainment? They worked on the Life is Strange games, and they worked on Vampire.
Yeah, I love Vampire, so I'm all for that. Didn't they just have an exclusive game come out for Xbox?
Yes, they had Tell Me Why. And it was similar to Life is Strange. And they also have another game similar to Life is Strange called Twin Mirror, releasing December. And it's working with, I think, Bandai. And they made that just with them as the publisher. So they've been working. And they also have another game in development, actually, I think.
Hopefully Vampire 2.
Could be. It might be something Life is Strange. Like Life is Strange 3 or another. I mean, the first Life is Strange sold really well. And then everything after that for Life is Strange didn't really sell that well. And they fit the Game Pass model. That's what I'm saying. Like, games like Life is Strange and Telltale, they're good games, but they don't ever sell that well as sequels. Like, the first Walking Dead sold really good, and then everything after that Walking Dead game for Telltale was downhill. So I think those games fit the Game Pass model a lot more. And then you could talk.
They do. They do. I mean, the Walking Dead final season, I have to disagree. I thought that was incredible.
Oh, I did too. I loved all of them, but the sales, they all went down.
True. I think when it comes to Life is Strange, I can't speak on it because I never played those games at all.
I just played them recently, and I thought they were so good. I thought they were better than all the Telltale games I've played, and I've played a lot of the Telltale games.
Well, my favorite Telltale game is The Wolf Among Us, and I have yet to play any game like that is top.
I just played The Wolf Among Us right around the time as Life is Strange. I was banging out games, and Life is Strange is better in my opinion.
I don't know. I just love the comics are that it's based off of are really good, and I just fell in love with the character Bigby Wolf. I thought he was awesome. And then the Telltale Batman games are phenomenal too. So I would love to see Microsoft buy them, actually bring them back from the dead and get them on board. But when it comes to Don't Nod, that is far more likely because of Tell Me Why in specific, I feel like that might have been a tease to see, hey, if that does well, we might pull the trigger on this thing. So I think it's likely, but I do think it's not it's not their top priority. I think there would be other studios they'd rather acquire first before Don't Nod.
Yeah.
Not to diss them or anything, because again, I love Vampire. I thought that was an incredible game, but I don't know. I don't feel like that's on their priorities.
Now, to end the show, let's talk about something a little crazier. And now, it's not something I think is going to happen, but it's more of a what if, because after the Bethesda acquisition, no one knows. Now, I think
say CDPR.
No, I'm not going to say CD Projekt Red. I think they're too big. They're worth too much money. They're like the most popular stock in fucking Poland.
Yeah. They need to stay on their own.
Now I'm talking more about, because Phil has said about Asia, he wants to get into that market. They want to make a push. They've made deals with Sega. Now I'm not saying that they're going to acquire Sega, but I mean either Capcom, From Software, Sega, Square Enix. All four of those companies have huge footprints in Asia. If they acquired just one of them, which all four of those would be very expensive, if they acquired one, I think Sega, because they actually have a relationship, would make the most sense out of those. That could really help out Xbox. Now, I don't know how much that would cost. I don't think you'd acquire Sega as a whole. I think you'd have to just acquire the gaming part of Sega and leave all the other assets, because I think Sega has like hotels and stuff, and I don't think Microsoft wants to buy that. Or even Konami as well. I mean, since we were just talking about Konami with Sony before, I mean...
Well, when it comes to studios like Konami and Capcom and From Software, those three in particular have had deep ties to Sony in the past, and I don't think From Software in particular, I don't see ever going to Xbox. I don't. I think they want to stay independent because their games are just... I'm sorry, I'm a Soulsborne.
Oh, I know you are.
They would never want to let go of their independence.
And I want to say From Software has like a very rich corporation invested in them.
They do.
Yeah, so that would be very hard to...
Yeah, and Hidetaka Miyazaki definitely doesn't want anyone telling him what to do or what game to make. They have funding. They're working on Elden Ring right now. That's a collaboration with George R.R. Martin. I don't see them wanting to change their tune on anything in terms of business practices anytime soon. When it comes to Capcom, kind of same deal. They've been very tight-knit with Sony, from Resident Evil to Devil May Cry, all that sort of stuff. It's entirely possible, because I think Capcom is just more corporatized and more willing to, I don't want to say sell out as in a bad sense, but they'd be more willing to sell than From Software would be. Yeah. I don't think it's likely in terms of being compared to Sega or Konami, but it is definitely within the realm of possibility. But Sega and Konami, I could definitely see that happening, because Konami just cares about money. So they don't care whether Sony or Microsoft buy them. Whoever has the bigger number would get Konami. And when it comes to Sega, they just have good ties with Microsoft, and Microsoft definitely needs a foothold in the Japanese and Asian market. They've been struggling there. Although the Series X did sell out immediately in Japan, which was quite a surprise.
Then again, you don't know how many they actually had for sale.
Yeah, there weren't probably that many, especially compared to the PS5 or the Switch. Definitely not compared to the Switch. But, I definitely...
that's actually why I just want to cut you off real quick. But if, let's say Sony, they can't get their inventory back up for the PS5, especially in Asia, if Xbox is just sitting there and they do have stock, because there were rumors a while back that Xbox is doing a lot better manufacturing because they had deals set in place prior to Sony. If that is true, and Xbox has a lot more available at launch, I could see it selling in Asia, assuming they do have some sort of deal with someone like Sega. That could be huge.
No, it could be absolutely massive, and it would establish a firm foothold in the region for Microsoft for many years to come. The question is, would the Japanese market be open to that? Would they want Sega to be bought by a Western company? That's true. A question you have to ask.
Well, that's why I don't think it couldn't be all Sega. That's the thing. I think it would have to just be the gaming portion of Sega. Yeah. And that would be because if they I want to buy everything of Sega, then no. But the Sega portion, the gaming portion of Sega, I think is a lot more easier to get than Sega as a whole.
Yeah, For sure. They definitely have no interest in the casinos and the pachinko machines and
Yeah.
the hotels and all that sort of stuff. If they were to buy Konami, it'd be the same deal. I don't think they would venture into any of that stuff because that's just outside of their realm of expertise. But when it comes to the gaming side of things, it would be foolish for Microsoft to not make an acquisition in the Asian market because they desperately need. If they want to get a foothold in there, it's now or never. They've been trying since the original Xbox. They haven't been able to pull it off. If they want to get it done, it has to be like now, or at least relatively close to now. Otherwise, the ship's just gonna sail. Like you don't see anything like Stadia being successful in the Asian market. It's hard for a Western company to have any influence over there because let's be honest, the Japanese kind of make the best games on the planet. You have Capcom, From Software, Kojima, all those brilliant developers over there that consistently put out quality content and don't just bend the knee to cancel culture, PC culture, because they have the art take precedent over everything else, just keeping the art pure, and they never sacrifice on any of that. So to have Western involvement in that market is already a daunting task for any Western company, so they would really need to make the effort, and I believe Microsoft is the only one with the time and resources to do that. And out of the options you gave me, the most likely one and the most logical one for them would be Sega.
Yeah. All right. Well, if that is it, then
I believe so.
all right. Well, if anyone here is watching the full cut, let me see how long this actually was. If anyone here is watching the whole hour and a half cut, then thank you for sticking with us.
Hats off.
Yeah, I mean, quality is obviously gonna get better over time. First episode, so.
But we
thank
hope
you
our
once again for watching.
conversation was content enough.
Yes. All right. Well, then we are gonna call it here. Thank you once again
Thank
for
you all
watching.
for watching.
And
check out the main site at thegamepreview.com where we have news and reviews and just everything gaming articles posted there quite often. Keep it right here on our YouTube channel, which I assume this is going to be uploaded to if you are interested in the podcast and the video review format and just any other content we put out. But back to you, Frank. You want to take us out?
Thank you guys, and make sure to keep an eye on the channel. We'll be uploading hopefully episode 2 next week. I mean, we'll see. Depends on news and availability, but there should be another episode next week. And just keep an eye there. Updates on the Twitter, of course, at the Game Preview. And links for everything are going to be in the description. So, thank you once again. Have a good one.